this is Polyester Giant, and I'm here to review the newest Deftones release, Ohms. I just want to preface by saying that I'm not too familiar with the Deftones catalog. In fact, I only started listening to each of their records in an attempt to familiarize myself for this review. That being said, I've been mostly very impressed with what I've listened to, and this brings us to their 9th studio album, Ohms. The record kicks off with Genesis, and we can immediately notice the fuzzy ambience that starts the song, and in a sense underlines the experimental nature the group attempts to manifest with this record. And for the most part, it works. This song, for instance, smartly incorporates the melody changes present on much of the record and keeps me engaged the whole way through. Ceremony, the next track, keeps with this momentum pretty well actually, but it's the back end of the track I enjoy more. The breather the band provides gives way into a commendable, somewhat euphoric closing chorus. But overall, the song doesn't leave as much of an impact on me as it could have if it utilized the quiet section more effectively. In fact, I'd say I'm more interested in the next track, Urantia. Moreno sounds like a young Billy Corgan on this thing. In fact, the track gives me really good Smashing Pumpkins, particularly melancholy vibes, that it manages to interweave dazzlingly with its more traditional alt-metal sound. I'm impressed. Error starts off the way you might think it would, with good use of noise work. Something characteristic of much of the record, in fact. The way it builds on its initial momentum is also something of note, but overall I found the track a bit lacking. Even when the melody changes close to the 3-minute mark, it just isn't enough to shake things up for me. The next track, unfortunately, doesn't seem to buck this trend that the album is starting to foster. That many of the tunes here don't seem to live up to their potential. Unlike the previous track, though, this one is able to save itself at the end with that snapping, which brings a sort of uniformity that the song was otherwise lacking in. Pompeii, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, continues with that engaging percussive clacking, a small feature that hooks me in. This one manages to hold its own quite well in terms of progression, too. It took me a couple of listens to really appreciate it, but I'm glad I stuck with it. And much like the track prior, it utilizes an interesting technique to maintain engagement the whole way through. The electronica that the band offers here, especially coming from Deftones, is impressive, and serves as a wonderful breather for the next and probably heaviest track, This Link Is Dead. This track is one of my favorites on the record. The production here and songwriting choices are perfectly suited to the tone it builds. From the beginning we have that greatly sparse electronica giving way to this brilliant noise work, and in my opinion one of Moreno's best deliveries yet. It's so ragged and hectic that it matches the rest of the track perfectly. And that breakdown, which seems to serve as a breather until it jerks you back into the rest of the song, is immensely important. I really dig this one. Radiant City, while less engaging, maintains this energy and sort of speed walks with it. I don't have much to say with this song actually. The soft, thoughtful intro to the next track, Headless, drew me in quite well. The rest of the song doesn't pique my interest, however. Its sense of melody is just too monotonous for me, and while that isn't a problem on its own, the sounds themselves aren't characteristic or interesting enough to back that up. And then we get to the final track on the album, the title track, Ohms. Easily my favorite on the record. Perhaps that's because this is arguably their most immediate and accessible track since Drive. The track's joyful sense of melody rivals even the deliciously shoegazy Minerva, but aside from that, the riffs here are so ridiculously engaging and inspired. The chorus is drifting so dutifully from the pounding, stormy vocals, and all of this is encapsulated in, again, this brilliant noise work that ascends the whole thing tremendously. The track is so gorgeously optimistic that I'm very impressed by it, and it leaves a great mark on the rest of the album. Overall, I'd say I'm pleased but not blown away by this album. It's certainly a solid leap forward from a somewhat weaker, more strange set of releases, and I hope they continue to hone this new experimentation and simultaneously return to basics and their later sound. I'm feeling a 65 on this thing. Good record, and I'm really excited to see what the future brings for Deftones. So what did you guys think of this LP? Let me know down in the comments below. If there are any records you'd like to see reviewed by me, feel free to ask. And if you like this content, consider subscribing and hitting that bell for more of it. In any case, thanks for your time, and have a great day.